on public services is now called to order. Today, we will tackle two important franchises. First is the renewal application of Oro Broadcasting Network Incorporated. And second, the proposed expansion of the franchise area of Davao Light and Power Company, DLPC. Broadcast media is an essential information dissemination tool, especially in unserved and underserved areas where internet and worse, electricity is unavailable. This is why we welcome local companies who seek to construct and operate radio and television stations outside Metro Manila. Granted a franchise in 1996 under Republic Act number 8216, Oro Broadcasting Network Incorporated is now seeking a renewal of its franchise through House Bill number 10648. Recently, the incorporators of the company sold the ownership of Oro Broadcasting. Through this hearing, we shall inquire about said transfer of ownership as well as other matters in relation to the operations of this franchise. Likewise, Oro Broadcasting needs to prove to the committee that they have faithfully complied with all the duties and deliverables of their existing franchise, that their performance in the past years were satisfactory, and that they have no existing liabilities. Before we endorse this franchise to the plenary, we need to ensure that the responsibilities stipulated in the franchise have been fulfilled. Allow me to reiterate, servisyo muna bago prangkisa. Likewise, we will also look into House Bill number 10554, the application of Davao Light and Power Corporation, or company, to expand its existing franchise area as a response to the calls for cheaper and better electricity service in some areas in Davao del Norte and Davao de Oro, presently served by Northern Davao Electric Cooperative, Nordeco. For the past 5 years, the demand for power in the entire Mindanao island is peaking, attributed to its growing economy. However, the power supply remains at a comfortable level that cannot keep up with the massive infrastructure and industry developments across the region. Frequent power outages and high power rates discourage more investments and businesses to come in. The case is worse in Davao region where electricity and water go hand in hand. Thus, the lack of electricity also meant the lack of water supply. In this hearing, we want to get an overview of the power situation in the Davao region. Who are the existing electricity distributors? What areas are they servicing? And what are the prevailing electricity rates? We also want to know the basis of this takeover. What were the standards for choosing the 8 areas in this? Is this allowed by law? Will existing contracts be terminated? Ultimately, we want to be informed about the impact of this measure. How will this affect the prevailing rates? The pending electrification of far-flung sitios, the impact on existing and new customers, and if they have been consulted about this. Let me stress that a franchise is a privilege, not a right. Kalakip nito ang malaking responsibilidad na pagsilbihan ng publiko at sa oras na hindi ito magampanan ng maayos, maaring ito ay bawiin. This congressional hearing will allow us to scrutinize your application, making sure that you're qualified and responsible to provide your avowed public service. In doing so, we have invited government regulators to assist us in determining the compliance, performance, and capacity of Oro Broadcasting Network, as well as to lay the general power situation, legal groundwork, and impact assessment necessary for the committee's informed decision making about the proposal to expand DLPC's franchise area. We also invited stakeholders to air their views about these applications. And so with that, I would like to acknowledge the senators present here today, especially our Minority Leader Franklin Rilon. I also heard that Senator Marcos is present also online. And also Senator Go. And from the House of Representatives, I am glad to welcome and thank the presence of Congressman Pantaleon Alvarez from Davao del Norte, Congressman Alan Dujali from Davao del Norte, and Congresswoman Lorna Silverio from Bulacan. I would also like to welcome Davao de Oro Governor JV Tyron Uy. Welcome, sir. Um, if I've missed anyone, Secretariat, please remind me so I may acknowledge them later on. In the meantime, I would like to ask the Secretariat to please acknowledge the presence of our resource persons, and to our resource persons, at least for the time that you're being acknowledged, have your video on, please. Go ahead, Secretariat.
Morning, Madam Chair. For the public hearing on the request for franchise of Davao Light under House Bill 10554, and for the request for franchise of Oro Broadcasting Network under House Bill number 10648. We have the following guests and resource persons. We have Representative Pantaleon Alvarez, together with Attorney Vincent Noel A. Aureus, Chief of Staff, and Mr. Rafael Luis G. Santos. We also have Representative Lorna Silverio, author of Oro Broadcasting Network. We have Representative Alan Dujali. We also, from the Department of Energy, we have Director Mario Marasigan of the Electric Power Industry Management Bureau. Attorney Cecil Abigail Francisco, Mr. Rodel Limbaga, and Mr. Dan Kennard Abriol. From the Energy Regulatory Commission, we have Attorney Shara Angela L.B. Blanco from the Legal Service, and Engineer Ranilio E. Maatubang from the Standards Division, Regulatory Operations Service. From the National Electrification Administration, we have Attorney Oswaldo F. Gabat from the NEA Legal Services, Ms. Ruth S. Ramirez from the Systems Audit and Quality Standards, Ms. Ana Lisa Creencia, Senior Internal Control Officer, and Ms. Diana Jean Maalala, Corporate Planning Office. From the Philippine Competition Commission, we have Attorney Johannes Benjamin Bernabe, Commissioner, and Attorney Jared S. Rivera, Attorney 3. From the Department of Information and Communications Technology, we have Mr. James Lee Abendaño and Mr. Jager Dwayne Tamaray. From the National Telecommunications Commission, we have Deputy Commissioner Edgardo V. Cabarrios. From the Securities and Exchange Commission, we have Attorney Gerardo R. Tan Jr., Securities Review Council. Attorney Eileen Joyce Flores from the Company Registration and Monitoring Department, and Mr. Vicente John Peñamora from the Office of General Counsel also. From the Bureau of Internal Revenue, we have Attorney Roy Sean Tancinco from the Law and Legislative Division. From our local government units, we have Governor Edwin Jubahim, Davao del Norte, Governor J.V. Tyron Uy from Davao de Oro. We have Sangguniang Bayan member Cesar D. Richa from Maco, Davao de Oro. We have Mayor Maria Teresa Timbol from Capalong, Davao del Norte. Mayor Georgian or Jorhan Pederizo from New Corelia, Davao del Norte. Mayor Arnel Sitoy, San Isidro, Davao del Norte. Mayor Alan Relion, Tagum, Davao del Norte, together with Attorney Arturo Manigo Jr., City Planning and Development Officer. We have Mayor Al David Uy from the Island Garden City of Samal, Davao del Norte. We also have the following stakeholders: Mr. Herman Basbaño, President Kapisanan ng mga Broadcaster ng Pilipinas. We have from the Philippine Rural Electric Cooperatives Association or PhilReca, Attorney Janine Depay Colingan, Executive Director, General Manager, and Engineer Ken G.P. Fagyan, Regulatory Compliance Officer. From the Northern Davao Electric Cooperative, we have Attorney Daniel Campo Amor, Legal Counsel, together with Attorney George V. Rapisa, also Legal Counsel. From the National Center of Electric Cooperative Consumer Incorporated, we have Mr. Rene Abria, the Chairman of the Nordeco Area Chapter. From the Coalition Against Privatization of Electric Cooperatives, we have Reverend Angelico F. Cofreros, Chairperson. From the Samal Chamber of Commerce, we have the President, Ms. Maria Florence Valera. From the Samal Tourism Council, we have Ms. Araceli Ayuste, the President. From the Tagum Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Rol Conde, President. We have Ms. Ara Castillo, convener of the Davnor Modernization Movement. And the franchise applicants, we have Mr. Anton Marie Perdices, Chairman of Davao Light and Power Company Incorporated. Mr. Roger Velasco, President, Davao Light and Power Company Incorporated. Together with Attorney Maria Consolacion Mercado, Legal Counsel. Mr. Mark Valencia, Chief Technology Officer. Jehan Borlasa, Chief Finance Officer. And Ms. Carla Alcala. From Oro Broadcasting Network Incorporated, we have Mr. Augusto Bacolio, the President. That would be all for the meantime, Madam Chair.
Thank you to our Secretariat. Before we proceed with perhaps asking, we'd also like to acknowledge the presence of Davao del Norte Governor Edwin Jubahib and also the mayors present, Mayor Al David of Samal, Mayor Alan Relon of Tagum, Mayor Maria Teresa Timbol of Kapalong, Mayor Arnel Sitoy of San Isidro, and Mayor Georgian Federizo of New Corella. Thank you for joining. As your voice would be what your constituents would like in your locality. So, is Senator Julon, would you like to have a short statement before we begin, sir? Okay, so I guess we can go ahead. We will first tackle the franchise applicant for Davao Oro Broadcasting Network because I think that this will not take as long as the next franchise applicant. First, before I ask questions regarding your franchise application, to the Oro representative, can you please give us a brief description of your company? You've been in operation for many years now, and if there are any transitions or any additional information we might need to know. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We would like to thank the Senate for hearing us after we have passed through the committee in Congress. Oro Broadcasting Network was incorporated in 1994, and in 1996, we were granted this franchise from Congress for a nationwide broadcasting for radio and television. And in the year 2000, National Telecommunication Commission granted also Oro the provisional authority to operate and install and maintain a 5 kilowatt FM radio station in Valencia, Bukidnon. Since then, we have operated this radio station and in nearby areas in Bukidnon and in Misamis Oriental. Practically, until there was a transition wherein we had to stop operation, and sometime before this franchise expired, there was a proposal by the rural electric cooperatives that they would like to operate radio stations, and if we can use our franchise and expand the franchise, they will be the one to invest in the radio stations, broadcasting stations, and that we will be assisting them and manage them, especially in the technical aspect, because NTC, National Telecommunications Commissions, inform us that any new application would be digital radio broadcasting, and that they will not approve anything that is not modern. And so we contacted, Oro Broadcasting contacted GeoSat Integrated Services to help us contact and engage the services of satellite companies, because the rural electric cooperatives are mainly located in islands and in mountainous areas where Wi-Fi, the digital connections are hardly existent. And so the contract finally was engaged and formalized and firmed sometime uh, 2020. And we applied because we informed them of the expiry of this franchise. And so we started the application for the renewal of this franchise. In Congress, the Securities and Exchange Commission informed us that we have to re-register the corporation, and also we had to have clearances with the Bureau of Internal Revenue. And here we are, we have submitted all this, and we are ready, because there are three things that I would like to inform Madam Chair and the Senate, that it is very imperative, it's really imperative that this franchise, in order to help, should be renewed or granted. The rural electric cooperatives would 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 need this franchise to operate, because they cannot operate, because under the charter they can only operate electricity. They cannot go into radio or broadcasting, and it is their only communication. Their only communication, especially that in areas in the islands, for instance, Dinagat Island, how can you communicate with them without the Wi-Fi? So uh, the radio broadcasting system will be the one to inform the public of the needs. And sometimes, not only, or most of the time, it is also being used as feedback mechanism by and communication with the community, because it is also linked with Facebook. Right now, there is a uh, broadcast test in Agusan Sur. In Agusan Sur, they are testing this digital radio broadcasting using Facebook, social media, and they are able to communicate, because but only in the areas in the main highway, because that's where the fiber optics are located. In other words, they cannot communicate outside of the main lines. And so the GeoSat and Oro Broadcasting has engaged the services of GeoSat to supply the satellite connections. Now, this later on, the consumers of, especially the big consumers in rural electric areas, uh, have informed us that they would like to have separate connections from the satellite, and also to be able to communicate and be able to tap the Wi-Fi and the internet lines. Um, Madam Chair, I think I have mentioned that there are, if I may elaborate, there are, like, we are hitting three birds with one stone in this venture. And as I s- and Rural Electric Finance Corporation and the Rural Electric Energy Corporation uh, have signed that they will be the one to invest in the radio broadcasting, and we, Oro Broadcasting, will be the one to invest in the satellite and the digital connections, as well as in the management of this radio broadcasting network. And there are already, uh, out of the 129 electric co-ops, there are like 80 who have signified their intention to put up the radio stations and enter into a contract with us as soon as we are able to, of course, get the go signal from Senate and the government for the renewal of this franchise.
Thank you, sir. Well, former Congressman Augusto Baculio,
Ma'am.
I would like to ask you, this is a renewal of a franchise, right? Was there at any time a change in the ownership of the franchise or the
Yes,
company?
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We have submitted that deed of assignment of shares and deed of sale.
And were you able to inform Congress of the change of ownership, and were you given approval for that?
Yes, yes, ma'am. Actually, in the application for the renewal uh, in Congress that we submitted,
Dami nag-aabang.
the assignment of shares, the transfer of shares, and the transfer of new owners was submitted. In other words, sinabay, ma'am, the renewal, which was later on informed us then by Congressman Silverio that it was a grant. And in order to facilitate everything, it was a grant on top of an old franchise. However, with your question, yes, ma'am, we have submitted the transfer of owners simultaneous with the renewal, the application for the renewal of the franchise.
But when did the actual transaction of a new ownership take place?
The transfer of ownership was in 10th day of May, 10th day of March 2021.
Okay, so within the year of the application of
Yes,
your
within the year,
franchise.
ma'am.
Okay. Why did you wait until the month before the expiration of your franchise, which was, I think, September 2021? So you filed in August. Why the lateness of your filing?
The if you look if you read our very important contract with the uh, Rural Electric Finance Corporation, it was done. It was finalized after so many negotiations, July 30, 2021. Without this contract, ma'am, it's so difficult to justify a uh, a digital radio broadcasting network, and the need at the time was so tremendous, especially it was pandemic, and before that, the pandemic came in, and uh, without this, it was very timely because the electric co-ops were already informing their management about the problems of communication and really trying to apply for a radio broadcast
Okay, sir.
franchise.
Sir, let me just interject. The reason why well, first of all, I appreciate that you are trying to set up in unserved and underserved areas. On the other hand, there are so many different facets in your presentation. You have your broadcast, you also have communications. So, can you explain, I guess, to the NTC and the DICT present? Let me begin with the NTC. There's a MOA between the Rural Electric Finance Corp and Geosat Integrated Services.
Yeah.
Now, NTC, is this allowed? Can a broadcast franchise be involved in telecommunication service? Because I know that these are two and different franchise applications. You cannot have broadcast and franchise unless there are two separate franchises granted to you. So NTC,
Yes,
Let yeah let oh yeah
thank you
yes,
very much.
NTC first.
Thank you very
Yes.
much, Madam Chair, Your Honor. Pursuant to Republic Act 7925, Your Honor, a single franchise cannot engage in both telecommunications and broadcasts, Your Honor. So a broadcast franchise cannot engage in telecommunications services, Your Honor.
Thank you. That's quite clear. So with that, we can only today, if ever, grant you a broadcast franchise, of which if you intend to engage in digital communications, as you were saying, you need to apply for another franchise for that, sir.
I know, ma'am. We are aware of the distinctions and the legislations the laws governing the telecommunications. Ma'am, let me clarify. What we are applying is a radio broadcasting and television broadcasting license. That's one. The technology that we are using, the satellite connections via, and we are now firming up two contracts with Intelsat and Pacific. The the need of the rural electric cooperatives is also paperless billing, ma'am. And we are not into telephony. Naputol ako. Go. We're not into telephony or telecommunications. The setting up of the satellite connections also could be used for paperless billing and Wi-Fi, and you don't need telephone for that kind of connection. So it's up to the Senate, because we have these satellite connections that we will install in order, because it is a requirement of National Telecommunication Commissions that radio broadcasting stations now must be digital. So we will put up the digital system. As I said, it's like hitting two birds with one stone, because there is also some executive orders that really encourages the setting up of Wi-Fi connections. Now, if we are going to put up the Wi-Fi connection just to exclusively for digital radio broadcasting, I think we are depriving our what do you call this, electric co-op specifically, to be able to communicate using Wi-Fi by paperless billing to bill, and that is already normal. It's being encouraged by even by central bank to come out and make paperless payment, digital payments. How can we
Sir,
go into
no,
digital
no, no.
payment?
I totally support that. I support that, being chairman of the Committee on Banks. I like paperless billing. I like online payments. On the other hand, when radio stations apply, I understand, sayang naman yung connection, no? But then we have a law to follow. And
Okay.
if you're applying for a broadcast franchise and you're getting
Yes.
into these different other services, there are certain laws that you might be in violation of. So NTC, can you please comment on this? Sinasabi ni Mr. Baculio na sayang naman yung Wi-Fi connection, so meron dapat silang paperless billing service because of the digital connection. Is this really part of something that a broadcast franchise can engage in? NTC, please.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. They may be thinking of a service similar to the Signal, satellite-based, and other satellite direct-to-home broadcasts. So it may be in that manner, so that their subscribers can receive information, entertainment, whatever information from the source. So that information can be a bill in itself. So it is a broadcast. A broadcast it should be one way. So the subscribers cannot reply back to the source of the information. So they just receive the information from the source. Baka ho ganon, no? The service that is being contemplated may be similar to the way Signal is doing its business.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification, Mr. Cabarios. Mr. Baculio, meron po kasing minsan, no, if you have a cable subscription, meron minsan na direct to the subscriber, they can send you information about your bills. And then after which you can use your internet or your telephone to make that payment. If that's the case, that's fine. Okay, but of course, tama yung sinabi ni Mr. Caballos, hindi pwedeng two-way. Yung nagko-connect ka na dun sa cable service mo kasi we're already trampling over another dimension of the franchise. So yun lang po. Hindi ko na po patatagalin ito kasi we just have to go through the motion of asking the SEC, the BIR, and the KBP. So first, the SEC. Is Oro Broadcasting compliant? Are they up to date with their requirements with the SEC?
Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning po.
Good morning, sir.
I would like to apprise the committee that during the deliberation before the Committee on Legislative Franchises of the House of Representatives, we have manifested that Oro Broadcasting Corporation certificate of registration was revoked. So thus we encourage them to file a petition for set aside the revocation.
Okay, why was
So
it
it was
revoked,
registered
sir? Why was it
for
revoked?
failure, ma'am. For failure to submit the required general information sheet and audited financial statement for the years 1996 to 2002, Madam Chair.
So just 1996 to 2002, but after that, they've been submitting.
They revoked, Madam, until right now.
Teka muna, so they've not been in operation since 2002? Am I correct?
I don't know, ma'am. We're not aware.
Mr. Baculio, you've not been in operation since 2002?
No, we were not in operation sometime, not 2002, some before 2010. And also, ma'am, what the ECC mentioned was, it's true, that was taken up in Congress. That is why Congress informed us to submit a new registration or a clarification or a clearance from the SEC. And we have re-registered it as advised by the Securities and Exchange Commission, Region 10, that a new registration, a new compliant of all regulations, SEC, was completed and approved in December 16, 2021.
My problem, sir, is that, sir, my problem is you've been non-operational for quite a period of time when your franchise is 25 years. So there was a long period wherein you weren't in operation, and there was also a period in which you were in operation, but you weren't compliant with the SEC. So these are things that I would like to look into further, sir. We will have to probably have a technical study of your application after, because we have to know exactly when you stopped operation, the reasons behind it, and then also during your operations you weren't compliant with the SEC. So with the BIR, let me ask now the BIR, are they compliant with their filings?
Yes, good morning, Your Honor. With regards to their filings, Your Honor, for Oro Broadcasting Incorporated itself, we saw in our, I think with the certificate of registration, it's only recent, Your Honor, their registration. However, I also conferred with your staff, Your Honor, if they have other information, Your Honor. We actually saw that the TIN as stated in the GIS actually pertains to another entity, Your Honor. I think it's Montessori, actually.
Yes.
So
okay.
Now,
okay. How about NTC? Thank you for BIR. Thank you for doing that extra research. I appreciate it.
Your Honor.
Mas ready na kayo ngayon kaysa noon.
Thank you, Your Honor.
NTC.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. We confirm that Oro Broadcasting Network Inc. was granted provisional authority to operate FM radio station in Valencia, Bukidnon. But the PA, Your Honor, expired in 2001. We have no record, Your Honor, of the operation of Oro Broadcasting Network, Inc., since the time it was granted the provisional authority, Your Honor.
Thank you. That's quite telling. KBP, are you familiar with Oro Broadcasting?
Good morning, ma'am. They are not yet member of the Kapisanan ng mga Broadcaster ng Pilipinas, ma'am. Though when they get the franchise, we're more than willing to, welcome them and share with them our broadcast code, etc., ma'am. No? But in the list, they are not included amongst the members, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Before we extend further on prepondering questions regarding this, it seems like we need to look further into this on the details of this franchise application because of certain irregularities. I'm not saying that there's anything illegal. I'm just saying that we need to be able to answer these questions before we can continue deliberating on the franchise application. So again, this chairman is for the expansion of broadcast services in unserved and underserved areas. But of course, it always has to be above board and they should have the capability to provide that service. So, Mr. Baculio, are you still there?
Can I make an additional statement, Madam Chair?
I'll give you a few minutes because actually we've already spent a lot of time.
There were many questions coming from SEC at the time in the hearing of Congress. Congress wanted to, help these electric co-ops and the communications in the far-flung areas. They saw the need, and what they did and approved was to grant a new one on top of an old franchise. In other words, they knew that there were some inadequacies, infirmities in the papers, and I said, but times call for a new, and we have submitted our capability with respect to the digital connections, which was badly needed. So I would like to just remind Senate that Congress approved to grant, not to renew, but to grant on top of an old franchise, and inform us and directed us to clean the papers and make a new registration on the Securities and Exchange Commission in order that this will be facilitated and finally approved in Congress. So that's what we did. We have already submitted all this, Madam Chair, for the committee to the old and the new, what do you call this, franchise, the old and new corporation, as well as the compliance with BIR and NTC.
Okay, that's not added to the confusion. Kasi you're citing an old franchise, but now you're applying for a new one, which is fine. I think that's better in a way that it's easier to move forward. On the other hand, based on your documents, Oro and GeoSat will provide the fiber optic, satellite discs, antennas, routers, connectors, and servers, maintenance to improve internet and Wi-Fi connectivity to 121 rural cooperatives. Hindi po yan broadcast. Ha? That's telecom already. So, so for now, sir, I'm sorry, but for now, I'll have to suspend consideration of your application. But we will work with you, okay, so that we can improve on the type of franchise that you would like, that you need from Congress. Okay, so for now, the meeting on the hearing on Oro Broadcasting is suspended. Okay, now we will go to thank you for our resource persons for that, especially former Congressman Augusto Baculio. We're willing to work with you, sir. We just have to be compliant with the laws on the franchise. Even if it was already approved in Congress, we have another house to make sure that if there are any deficiencies, we can fix the deficiency. Okay?
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Our office is open if you need to get in touch with our staff. Thank you, sir. Let's now move on to Davao. Davao Power. I'm sorry. DLPC, Davao Light and Power Company. Present here today, I think, is the applicant, who will give a short background on Davao Light and Power? Who is again the representative? I saw Mr. Perdices.
Your Honor, if I may, Roger Velasco.
Mr.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Mr. Velasco, you are what's your designation in the LPC?
I'm the President and Chief Operating Officer of Davao Light and Power Company, Your Honor.
Okay, so go ahead, Mr. Velasco. Welcome to our hearing. You may go ahead with your brief introduction and presentation if you have any.
Yep. I don't have any presentation, Your Honor. I'll be shortly discussing what this is all about and all about Davao Light also, Your Honor, if I may.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. Good morning, Committee Chair, the Honorable Senator Grace Poe, to the rest of the honorable members of the Committee on Public Service and guests. Once again, good morning. So we are honored to be invited in this honorable committee because of the request of the honorable LGUs of the municipalities of Capalong, Asuncion, New Quirila, San Isidro, Talaingod, and cities of Tagum and Igapos of Davao del Norte, and municipality of Maco of Davao de Oro to serve as their electric power distributor. We will be happy and honored to provide the service they requested, subject to the grant to operate the franchise therein, bringing with us our competence, experience, and performance that we have shown once given the opportunity by the honorable body. Our priority areas when we take over are the following: lower the total cost of electricity to all customers. Second, improve reliability and availability of power, meaning lower the outages, improve customer services, and lower systems loss. Davao Light and Power Company is an electric distribution utility operating in Davao City and portions of Davao del Norte, covering Panabo City and municipalities of Carmen, Santo Tomas, and Braulio Ilogali. We operate an efficient and reliable distribution network, fully automated using SCADA technology, with a peak demand of 464 megawatt. We serve about 455,000 customers, covering an area of about 3,560 square kilometers. We have been in service for over 75 years. We have the following experience and competent personnel to efficiently and effectively operate Davao Light. Technical personnel to install, operate, maintain, and expand our electrical network. Service-oriented personnel to handle customers' concerns such as new connection application concerns and complaints. Highly competent personnel on financial services, information and operational technology, procurement and logistics, including sourcing of power supply, engineering, and customer services, among others. We are 100% compliant to the requirements of our regulator, the ERC, as well as to other government agencies governing our operations such as Transco, PISAM, NPC, DOE, and DOLE. We are a ISO 9001, 14001, 45001 certified company for quality, environment, and occupational safety and health, respectively. These ISO systems, collectively called Integrated Management Systems, or IMS, has guided us to manage risks, be productive, efficient, and effective with customer service at the core of our business. As a result, we are proud that we continuously strive to do world-class service, provide excellent operational performance, and service excellence to our customers. We will mention the following. We install residential meters within 24 hours after contract signing. Complaints per 1,000 customer is 3.6. We have a 24-hour telephone hotline and social media accounts to answer customers' queries, concerns, and complaints. We attend to service calls or emergency calls within 30 minutes at 90% of the time. We have zero occupational safety violations and illnesses and zero environmental violations. Our unplanned SIFI and SID for the year covering January and February is 0.46 times and 29 minutes respectively. SIFI is the number of times we interrupt our customers. It's the average, while the average for SID is the duration in minutes we interrupt our customers. Our distribution systems loss as of December 2021 is 5.07%, below the ERC mandated cap of 5.5% for private distribution utilities. We have energized 100% of our 266 barangays, 96% of our 3,732 sitios, and 99% at household level under our franchise. We do regular monthly customer satisfaction surveys, and we are proud that our customer satisfaction index is at 96%. At the LGU's perspective, our LGUs have enjoyed over 650 million of business tax that we pay for the past 5 years, which in turn they can use to improve the services of their constituents. In Davao City alone, we are consistent awardee as top taxpayer to the city. We partnered with Davao City LGU to replace existing sodium streetlight with a more efficient LED street lighting system for the city to save on their electricity bills. Another key partnership with the LGU is converting Davao City's central business district from overhead lines to underground. This is to improve the reliability, availability, as well as the aesthetics of Davao City's CBD. At the height of the COVID-19, we partnered with all LGUs and provided PPEs, medical equipment, food packs. We likewise donated a number of vaccines to a number of the LGUs that we host. The third thing is that the community that we advance and very close to our heart is education, which gets the lion's share of our corporate social responsibility budget. We donated electrical laboratories to DepEd's senior high schools, provided computer equipment through robotic kits to various public schools, including DOST's Philippine Science High School. We supported a lot of college scholars. In fact, we have 20 of those. We have 107 of now college graduates and are working. Our track record, in summary, our track record speaks for itself. We have highly experienced and competent personnel. We continuously strive to achieve world class to deliver excellent service to our customers. We have existing strong partnerships with host LGU to provide better service to its constituents. And finally, we support education because of our strong belief that it will lead to the betterment of the youth's future and contribute positively to nation building. Once again, good morning, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Before we continue, I would like to apologize to our minority leader for not having seen you raise your hand earlier when we were discussing Oro Broadcasting. Perhaps if you would like to ask for the record the questions and we can just forward it to them, or if you had any comments regarding that, sir.
No, it was not actually a question. It was just, I was going just to make a request that all the issues be outlined so that it's easy for us to understand what are the disputed areas. Matter of directing the Secretariat, Madam Chair, to give us a summary of what are the opposing issues that are being presented to the committee for decision. For example, just to cite one, the fact that the old franchise is not being renewed, but a new franchise is being applied for. We just want to know the ramifications and the resolution to such issue raised by the committee. That's all, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Among many other issues, thank you for pointing that out. An outline will certainly be helpful for the members of the committee to decide. Thank you to our minority leader. Thank you also, Mr. Velasco. With your presentation, it seems like the services is exactly what the constituents in those areas need. But I would also like to give Nordeco a chance to be able to present their side, because I believe that they will be affected by this and they're the ones that are against the approval of this franchise. Do we have a representative from Nordeco before we call the other resource persons?
Madam Chair, good morning.
Good morning. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of Senator Bong Revilla. Go ahead, Attorney Campo Amor.
Madam Chair, the officers and members of this Honorable Committee on Public Service, Public Services, Your Honors, respectfully appearing as counsel for Northern Davao Electric Cooperative. With me is my co-counsel, Attorney Rapista, and the management staff of Northern Davao Electric Cooperative, headed by the OIC General Manager Elvera is Alngog, and the Board of Directors. May I proceed, Your Honor?
Yes, that's why I called you. Go ahead, please.
Nordeco covers 16 municipalities and 2 cities. May I be allowed to share my screen, Your Honor, Madam Chair?
Secretariat, please allow them to share the screen. Are we ready for this? Did you submit your presentation ahead of time?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Secretariat,
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. Nordeco covers.
wait, I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean to interrupt, but unfortunately, I have to give priority to the senators who would like to give a brief opening statement regarding this topic. So first, Senator Go, are you ready for your manifestation, sir? After which I will ask Senator Bong Revilla. Senator Go? Senator Bong Revilla?
No opening statements, Madam Chair.
No opening.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. I acknowledged you earlier. Thank you, sir, for your presence here today. Okay. Since Senator Bongo is not yet responding, go ahead, Nordeco, for your presentation, and I'm sorry for interrupting. Senator Frank Drilon.
Yes. May I request that in the presentation of the LPC and the oppositor Nordeco, the issue of whether or not the legal issue involved, and that is under section 27 of the EPIRA law, which requires that the existing franchise granted by the National Electrification Commission should be allowed to their full term. As a lawyer, that is my interest. So may I request the Nordeco representative and the LPC representative to focus on this particular issue. Can Congress grant a franchise covering an area where there is an existing franchise granted by the National Electrification Administration? That is our request, Madam, and that is our opening statement. That is the issue that must be resolved, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Drilon. I see also that Congressman Alvarez would like to say something. Perhaps after the Nordeco presentation, we will acknowledge Congressman Alvarez. Thank you, sir. Go ahead, Nordeco. And please take into consideration the concerns of our minority leader regarding the legality in the EPIRA law. Go ahead.
You are muted, sir. You are muted,
sir,
Attorney Campo Manor. You are
sir,
muted.
you are muted. And then, Secretariat, please put back the screen for presentation of Nordeco.
Okay. Okay. Madam Chair, we will take into consideration the suggestion of Senator Drilon. As we go in the presentation, the issue will be discussed. Nordeco covers 16 municipalities and 2 cities under the 2 provinces of Davao de Oro and Davao del Norte, serving more than 195,159 billed consumers with total demand of 106 megawatt. As shown in the EC franchise coverage map, Those with gray color are the cities of Tagum, an island garden city of Samal, and the 6 municipalities of Asuncion, Capalong, New Corilla, San Isidro, and Talaingod in the province of Davao del Norte, and the municipality of Maco in the province of Davao de Oro, that are eyed for the Davao Light and Power Company for its expansion, which is equivalent to a demand of 71 megawatt, covering 100,915 billed consumers. It is the humble submission of Nordeco that the proposed law, House Bill 10554, expanding the franchise area of Davao Light and Power Company to include 52% of the former billed consumers, equivalent to 67% of the total demand of the EC, is inconsistent with the constitutional yardstick of common good and violative of the relevant law affecting the government's rural electrification program. Nordeco is cognizant of the fact that pursuant to Article 12, Section 11 of the 1987 Constitution, the Philippine Congress has the exclusive authority to grant, amend, alter, or repeal the franchises when the common good so requires. Nordeco humbly submits that common good, the constitutional yardstick on the grant of franchise in favor of Davao Light and Power Company over the existing franchise of Nordeco, is not obtaining in the circumstances on hand. The carving out of selected municipalities and cities will certainly result to a higher rate in the areas that would remain with Nordeco's franchise should House Bill 10554 prosper. It is the humble submission of Nordeco that the rate in the areas left in its franchise, should the instant measure be approved, namely the municipalities of Laak, Mawab, Mabini, Pantukan, Nabunturan, Montipista, Compostela, Moncayo, New Bataan, and Maragusan, the one shaded in grade color as shown in the map, will surely soar to an estimated rate of 17 pesos and 27 centavos per kilowatt hour in the generation rate, affecting 94,244 billed consumers, an increase of 10 pesos and 91 centavos per kilowatt hour. Hence, the remaining power demand of 35 megawatt will indeed affect the power rate of Nordeco, since it cannot utilize the contracted power supply and will continuously pay the capacity recovery fee or the fixed charges due to the power suppliers until the end of the existing power supply agreements, on top of the other statutory pass-on rates. Thus, it will be an added burden to the member consumer owners since these charges are pass-on rates. As to the distribution system and metering rate, there is a projected increase from 1 peso 53 centavos per kilowatt hour to 1 peso 71 centavos per kilowatt hour, an increase of 17 centavo per kilowatt hour that would be shouldered by the remaining municipalities of Nordeco. This will bring the effective rate of approximately 22 pesos 50 centavos per kilowatt hour to the remaining 94,244 remaining billed consumers of Nordeco. On the Nordeco areas that will be covered by the proposed expanded franchise of DLPC, the former submits that the prevailing rate in the existing franchise area of the latter would not be applicable to the proposed expanded areas on the apparent grounds and factors, to wit, consumer density, nature of consumers, which are mostly residential, kilometer of lines, distribution system and metering, line expansion and improvement, and revenue requirement for private distribution utility is allowed 10% return on base rate, as in the case of Davao Light and Power Company. Which factors are affecting the power rate in the expanded franchise area of Davao Light? As presented in the comparative analysis between the power bill of Davao Light and Nordeco, for a residential consumer with the same consumption level of 183 kilowatt hour, it shows that DLPC consumer pays DSM at an amount of 436 pesos, while Nordeco consumer pays 286.41 centavos. The DSM rate of Nordeco is equivalent to 1 peso and 53 centavos per kilowatt hour, while DLPC has 2 pesos and 35 centavos. DLPC therefore has a higher DSM by 81 centavos per kilowatt hour. Distribution, supply, and metering charges represent the cost of daily operations of the distribution utility. Operations and maintenance expenses, customer expense, and general and administrative expenses. In the case of Nordeco, an electric cooperative being a non-profit entity, the significant items on the power rate structure in setting the power rate is simply the generation and transmission charges to the exclusion of the return on investment or margin of profit. Consumer density or number of households served per kilometer of distribution line considered. There exists a wide disparity between DLPC and Nordeco. DLPC is currently operating in densely populated urban area in Metro Davao, which has about 112 households per kilometer of line, while Nordeco has only about 29 households per kilometer of line. It is worthy to mention further that DLPC and Nordeco's distribution lines traverse highly vegetative forested areas, if only to bring the electricity in the hinterlands that are found in the franchise area without regard to return on investment or margin of profit. Notably, Nordeco has about 6,754,863 circuit kilometer of lines, while DLPC has only 3,260,997 circuit kilometer of lines. Moreover, another factor that would influence the rate increase in DLPC is the cost of restoration and repair of lines and facilities in times of calamities which are recoverable from consumers by DLPC. The same recovery formula and/or item in the power rate is not applicable to consumers of Nordeco, as it is guaranteed of government subsidy pursuant to Republic Act 11039, otherwise known as the Electric Cooperative Emergency and Resiliency Fund Act. The effect on government's rural electrification program. The non-viable areas will be deprived of the right to electric service. To date, the electrification level of Nordeco is at 77% of 311,782 households. In 2019, Nordeco was granted government subsidy through situ electrification program after the November 14, 2019 reconciliation and unification of two factors. Despite its aggressive implementation of the national government's rural electrification program, there are still 70,422 unenergized households in the coverage area of Nordeco, most of which are in the far-flung areas. In the event that 6 municipalities and 2 cities will be taken over by Davao Light, the latter, with all due respect, in all probability, will not venture to energize the far-flung areas belonging to said municipalities and cities, which have no viable and definite return on investments, an allowable recoverable item in the unbundled rates for private distribution utilities. Notably, as shown in the presentation, there are still 635 unenergized sitios in those areas. Those unenergized areas will be deprived of the government's mandate towards total electrification upon the passage of House Bill 10554 on account of the constitutional prescription on appropriation for private purposes, which was further declared in Section 32 in relation to Section 32A, Presidential Decree 269, as amended by Sections 12 and 13, respectively, of RA number 10531, withholding government subsidies and or incentives, such as not limited to the situ electrification program to distribution utilities registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission, as in the case of Davao Light. Hence, through Nordeco, the government's electrification program in the remaining 635 situs in those areas applied for DLPC will be hampered. Notably, while DLPC started its electric service since 1929 in Davao City, Nordeco, then the NECO, started only in 1972. It means DLPC existed 40 years ahead of Nordeco. Nordeco, which is just 50 years in existence, had accomplished significantly in energizing its coverage area, considering its limited resources and topography. As admitted by the Chief Executive and President of Davao Light, Davao Light has only energized 96% of its franchise area in its 93 years of existence. It has still remaining unenergized situs in its franchise area, particularly in the 3rd District of Davao City. In Paquibato, you have situs Colasas, Mapula, Salapawan, Tapak. In Marilog District, situs Baganihan, Bantul, Dalag, Datu Salumay, Gumitan, Magsaysay. In Marilog and Salaysay. And in the municipalities of Braorio, Iduhali, Carmen, and Santo Tomas and Panabo, all in Davao del Norte. It is worthy to note that these vital circumstances were not considered before the House of Representatives when it approved House Bill 10554, as it was hastily done without the position papers of the government regulatory agencies, namely the National Electrification Administration, Energy Regulatory Commission, Department of Energy, the affected member consumers, particularly in the province of Davao de Oro. As pointed out by Representatives Presley C. De Jesus, Adriano C. Ebcas, Serious C. Dagook, and Godofredo N. Guya in their December 1, 2021 letter to Honorable Ferdinand Martin G. Romualdez, Majority Floor Leader, House of Representatives, the instant measure was hastily approved by the House of Representatives, absent a comprehensive and exhaustive discussion on the above cited relevant issues and concern. The grant of franchise to DLPC is in violation of the declared national policy. The grant of franchise of DLPC over the franchise area of Nordeco is inconsistent with the declared national policy of the state, enshrined in Section 2, Republic Act number 10531, otherwise known as the National Electrification Administration Decree, which expressly provides, it is hereby declared the policy of the state to promote the sustainable development in the rural areas through rural electrification. Empower and enable electric cooperatives to cope with the changes brought about by the restructuring of the electric power industry pursuant to Republic Act 9136. Implementing the above declared national policy of the government, Section 27 of RA number 9136, otherwise known as the Energy Power Industry Reform Act, the exclusive authority of Congress of the Philippines to grant franchises to persons engaged in the distribution of electric utility is limited by the same provision which provides that all existing franchises shall be allowed to their full term. As admitted by Congressman Alfredo A. Garbin in his explanatory note before the House of Representatives, Nordeco, formerly Daneco, is an electric cooperative granted a franchise by the virtue of certificates number 0115, 117 for the mainland, and 103 for Island Garden City of Samal, issued by the National Electrification Administration for a period of 50 years, from 1978 and 1983 respectively. Apparently, the franchise of Nordeco in the city of Tagum, the municipalities of Asuncion, Capalong, Ñucurillas, San Isidro, Talaingod in the province of Davao del Norte, and the municipality of Maco in Davao de Oro sought to be included in the franchise area of Davao Light contained in the instant proposed measure is subsisting and set to expire in 2028. Moreover, the franchise of Nordeco over Island Garden City of Samal, Davao del Norte is still subsisting and set to expire in 2033. Apparent in the proposed measure is the fact that it simply expands the franchise of DLPC without amending for the purpose the existing franchises of Nordeco pursuant to the above cited certificates. This brings to the fore Section 41C of RA number 6038, which expressly provides that no franchise for service shall be granted to any other person within any area or portion for which a cooperative holds a franchise. Notably, those laws use the word shall, which in our legal hermeneutics means mandatory. And then the issues and concerns brought about by Congressman Pantaleon Alvarez, Congressman Alfredo Garbin, Governor Edwin I. Hubahib, and Mayor Al David Uy of Island Garden City of Samal, Mayor Maria Teresa R. Timbul of the Municipality of Capalong, Mayor Georgian B. Federeso of the Municipality of Ñucurillas in the province of Davao del Norte on the purported inefficiencies of Nordeco. The matter has been directly dealt with by the National Electrification Administration Administrator Emmanuel P. Wanesa in a position paper which was belatedly submitted in December 6, 2021 before the House of Representatives to the effect that Nordeco is not inefficient as it has complied with the industry performance indicators it has been implementing. The rest of the issues has been extensively discussed in the position paper submitted by Nordeco before this honorable committee. Having said that, I thank you, Madam Chair, the officers and members of this honorable committee on public services, your honors, for giving Nordeco through this representation the opportunity to present itself, and respectfully and humbly fervently request that due consideration be given to the electric cooperative as it has thrived amidst the challenges and it has gained the rewards of the rural electrification of the government. Again, thank you and good noon.
Thank you for your presentation, Attorney Daniel. I would like to acknowledge now, I mean, later on, I would like to call on the Department of Energy and the ERC. But before that, since Congressman Alvarez raised his hand earlier, I would like to hear, we would like to acknowledge Congressman Pantaleon Alvarez. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, honorable members of the committee, may I request that I be allowed to read my short statement on House Bill 9978.
Go ahead, sir.
Chairperson Grace Pu, Vice Chairpersons of the committee, members from both the majority and the minority, colleagues and friends, good morning. Without power, people and economies as well as development are rendered impotent and powerless. This is what we need. Power, the literal, useful, and pragmatic kind. And by this we mean electricity. That being said, we have a serious problem in Davao del Norte, particularly in regard to Northern Davao Electric Cooperative or Nordeco, formerly known as Davao del Norte Cooperative or DANECO. While responsible for the delivery of electricity to our constituents, Nordeco has unfortunately constantly failed to comply with its mandate. DANECO was formed in 1971, and despite 50 long years of existence, it has still miserably failed and continues to fail to provide reliable service to the public consumers. Their power supply is expensive, erratic, and unreliable in contrast to the best standards in the industry, and in comparison to the services availed of and enjoyed by other nearby communities. I am not alone in expressing this kind of disappointment. While I have, in my personal capacity, likewise suffered their faulty services, many have also experienced the same problem. It is not unusual in my district for electricity supply to suddenly come and go at the most inconvenient time. Unsurprisingly, many communities and localities covered by Nordeco have, in protest to what is happening, filed resolutions requesting that the power distributor be changed. They have had enough, and they have spoken clearly. The people better situated to assess their own needs want Nordeco to be accountable for its bad service. And they want Nordeco replaced. To add insult to injury, Nordeco has time and again refused to be transparent with its dealings and contracts that affect the public's interest. As their duly elected representative, I am duty-bound to relay their interest in brief. They want change in the status quo, a situation that has hampered progress and development for our local economy and has caused many inconveniences to our constituents. Hence, this is the reason why I have co-authored House Bill number 9978, otherwise known as the Davao Light Power and Company Incorporated Franchise Bill. Davao Light is a company of good standing and has proven its worth in this specialized field. Its dynamic record, credible profile, and past performance speaks volumes about Davao Light's capability. This is the kind of service that our people deserve and which, unfortunately, Nordeco has failed to supply despite numerous opportunities for them to rectify. Thankfully, we are in a position to correct this wrong and provide a remedy to this continuing injury inflicted upon us by Nordeco. I look forward to the approval of this bill here at the committee level and onwards to the plenary until it finally becomes law of the land. And when that happens, reliable and affordable electricity will soon become a reality for us in Davao del Norte. On behalf of the people of Davao del Norte, thank you and good day.
Thank you, Congressman Alvarez. It's certainly noteworthy to be able to hear, as a representative of your constituents, what the sentiments are on the ground. Now, okay, before we go to the DOE and the rest, Davao del Norte Governor Edwin Jubaib is also recognized. Go ahead, sir.
Madam Chair, Senator Grace Poe, and Senator Franklin Drilon, Senator Bungo, Senator Revilla, and of course to former Speaker, Congressman Pantaleon Alvarez, and sa lahat ng mayors ng Davao del Norte, sa lahat in this council, magandang umaga po. Madam Chair, in support to the statement of Congressman Pantaleon Alvarez, nais ko lang iparating in this council yung dahilan bakit kami nag-petition laban dito sa Danico Nordeco. Unang-una po, ang problema talaga namin dito, itong massive brownout in part of Island Garden City of Samal and all the District 1 of Davao del Norte. At mayroon po kaming comparison dahil yung District 2 ng Davao del Norte is part of Davao Light Power and Power Company. Ang per kilowatt po ng Davao Light is only 8 pesos and 73 centavos per kilowatt. Sa Nordeco naman, Danico is 13 pesos 0.31 centavos up to 19 pesos per kilowatt. Depende kung ano kalayo yung sitio o barangay. And system loss, naniningil po ng system loss ang Danico Nordeco ng 18.92%. And compared to Davao Light is 5.98% only. And sa services naman, 98% mayroong kuryente ang Davao Light, no brownout. Compared to Danico, 60 to 70% brownout. Yun ang problema namin. And delivery of supply and demand, yung Nordeco, pag ang consumer mag-request ng additional electricity supply, hindi nila maibigay. At ito ang dahilan bakit maraming mga negosyante sa Davao del Norte, especially in District 1 and Samal, Island Garden City of Samal, na nagreklamo dahil hindi ma-provide yung kailangan nilang supply ng kuryente. At pangalawa, pag hingi ka ng transformer, ang magbayad is ang consumer na nag-request. Compared to Davao Light, 100% may deliver nila yung demand ng kuryente. Pag may mag-request ng transformer, automatic walang bayad. Diretso na ibigay ng Davao Light, i-provide. Yung sitio electrification namin sa buong Davao del Norte, in districto, 100% hanggang sa pinakamalayo na sitio o purok ng distrikto Davao del Norte ay mayroon ng sitio electrification at hindi nagbigay ng pera ang LGU kung hindi provided by Davao Light and Power Company. Compared to Nordeco, lahat ng sitio electrification, ang pondo ay galing sa congressional office, galing sa munisipyo at sa city, at galing sa provincial government of Davao del Norte. Ibig sabihin, wala pong capitalization ang Danico Nordeco. Kaya po, nung time po na na-elect ako bilang gobernador ng Davao del Norte, inumpisahan namin ang petition from barangay. Kaya po nagkaroon kami ng barangay signatures campaign, barangay assembly, na 100% sa constituents namin dito ay talagang nag-sign ng petition na ayaw na namin sa Danico Nordeco dahil very poor po ang services at sobrang mahal ang singil ng kuryente. At hindi kaya i-deliver ang supply sa demand. At ito ang dahilan na walang mga investor na nag-invest sa part ng Danico dahil sa problema sa kuryente. At yung petisyon namin from barangay, binigyang support ng lahat ng barangay captains council, yung petisyon, at saka binigyang suporta ng Sangguniang Panlunsod at Sangguniang Bayan at Sangguniang Panlalawigan. Ito po ay legit na talagang ayaw na talaga ng taga District 1 at South Island Garden City of Samal. Ayaw na namin ang Danico Nordeco. Kaya ang petition po namin na kailangan ma-extend, Your Honor, ang services ng Davao Light and Power Company sa whole part ng Davao del Norte, at ang Danico Nordeco ipagpatuloy nilang serbisyo nila doon sa Davao de Oro. Baka naman may bigyan nila ng tamang serbisyo ang taga Davao de Oro, mag-enjoy sa kuryente at murang singil sa kuryente. Yan po ang aming nais iparating, Your Honor, na sana po i-approve nyo, suportahan nyo ang aming petisyon dito sa Davao del Norte. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you. Well, salamat na namulat mo ang aming kaalaman ukol dito. Siyempre, kayo ang nandyan sa ground kasama ng inyong mga constituents. Nais ko din sana marinig bago yung DOE at saka yung iba pang ahensya. Siguro si Governor Tyrone, uy, ano ba yung posisyon po ninyo?
Thank you, ma'am. May I be recognized po? Thank you.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Ma'am Chairman. On behalf of the people of Davao de Oro, we thank the Senate of the Philippines, the Senate Committee on Public Service, led by Senator Grace Poe, for inviting me to be part of this committee hearing for the House Bill 10554. Our interest here is for the welfare of the people of Davao de Oro, to ensure that they pay lower power costs and at the same time enjoy quality service because it's necessary in the general well-being and overall development sa aming probinsya. It is also worthy to note that while the humble representation is invited in the Senate hearing today on Committee on Public Service, we were not invited nor consulted on the deliberation of the proposed law before the House of Representatives. No officials from the provincial local government unit of Davao de Oro or even MACO were invited and present during the committee hearing. It is our humble view that any legislation should pass through rigorous consultation, especially from affected sectors and stakeholders. There are several concerns that we would like to raise regarding the bill. our subsisting power supply contract with Nordeco provides for a payment of fixed charges and minimum nominations for a specific period of time. Needless to state, as a necessary corollary, once the bill becomes law, there may be drastic increase in the power rates of Nordeco to the inconvenience of our constituents. Our projects under the situ electrification program are likely to be affected as well, considering the Davao Light and Power Corporation is a private-owned business organization and not cooperative like Nordeco. It is our prayer that the sentiments of Davao de Oro be heard in these succeeding proceedings. The official position of the provincial government of this moment is to further consult our people of Davao de Oro because the effects of this bill, intended or unintended, may not only affect the municipality of Mako, but the rest of Davao de Oro. We remain open for consultations and further engagement. May there be answers to our queries be provided in this forum. Madam Senator, salamat po at good afternoon.
Dagang salamat, Governor Uy. Actually, hindi ko alam, hindi pala kayo nasama dun sa consultation sa House. Ngayon, hindi ba kayo kasama dun sa expansion ng DLPC? Hindi kayo covered?
Nalito nga ako, ma'am, dahil sa title sa bill, walang Davao de Oro doon. But sa Section 1, under that House Bill, nandoon na nakalagay yung isa sa munisipyo namin sa Mako.
So isa lang. Ilan po ba yung munisipyo nyo, Gov?
We have 11 municipalities po.
So only one municipality is included, and your concern is that should this push through, your other 10 municipalities might be adversely affected.
Yes po, as presented by Nordeco earlier, it could affect the price of the kilowatt per hour, no? Baka mag-increase. So kami ang apektado.
Paano ngayon kung sabihin ng DLPC, o sige, buong Davao de Oro na rin, isama natin?
That has to be presented well to the people.
No, I understand. You have to be able to articulate that that's a very legitimate concern. So let me now ask, kasi we're already playing volley here, para hindi tayo maalis on topic. Let me ask now, DLPC, the one who presented Mr. Velasco earlier, is it true that you're only expanding in Davao de Oro in one municipality? And are you open to absorbing the 10 other municipalities?
Your Honor, yes, confirming the eight cities and municipalities that is part of the House Bill 10554, which was filed by the LGUs and headed by Kuya Gobo Bahib. And yeah, if we're open to discussing if to expand further to the Oro, if allowed by law and allowed by this house, by this body. I mean, we're open to serve, Your Honor.
Okay, because the concern is maybe perhaps what DLPC is doing is that areas that are economically viable are only the ones being included. Whereas, of course, with the electrification project, what we want are unserved and underserved areas to be included. But as pointed out by the Davao del Norte governor or Congressman Alvarez, in areas where they were requesting for transformers or an expansion, Nordeco wasn't able to provide that expansion. And in fact, if there's an expansion being done, it is to the charge to the community or the local government or Congress, whereas if it's the private sector, they shoulder it. So anyway, maybe the other mayors present here today, may I ask, I'll call you one by one and tell me just in a brief statement your views regarding this. So let me see. The ones that I have here present, Mayor Al David of Samal. Sir, ano po yung opinion nyo dito sa diskusyon natin? Please turn your mic on.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning po. Good morning po, Senator Grace, and to all the members of this honorable committee. And sa lahat po na nandito sa meeting natin, sa Zoom meeting natin ngayon, magandang umaga po. Mayong udto na di ay. Yeah, I do agree, ma'am, with the statements of the former speaker and Governor Hubahib that for your information po, Madam Senator, in District 2 under Congressman Aldo Duhali, ang Samal Island na lang po ang natira sa Nordeco. Lahat ho ng yung cities of Panabo, the municipalities of Carmen, Braulio y Duhali, and Santo Tomas are all with Davao Light. So nakita ho nung mga constituents natin here in Samal, yung difference po, yung mga under Davao Light and under Nordeco. And I would like to reiterate, ma'am, yung sinabi po ni Governor Hubahib na yung electrification ho dito sa Samal, ma'am, nandito ho yung members ng Tourism Council natin and the members of our business community. Ang LGU Samal ho ang halos gumagasto ng sitio electrification programs. Even ang ikinakagalit ko lang po minsan, na hindi ho minsan but all the time, even resort owners, even ordinary citizens would testify that pag kailangan nila ng poste, kwentador, mga transformer, kami ho ang bumibili. Yung mga ordinaryong Samalenyo ang gumagasto para meron lang silang transformer, meron silang poste. Kami po ang gumagasto. And what's worse is there's no transparency. And yet, sa bill ho nila, we are paying for a capex na hindi namin in-enjoy. Kasi supposed to be, yung capex ng Nordeco before, may loan sila for our submarine cable, 2012 pa. And yet, we are paying for it na wala namang submarine cable. Instead, ang inilagay nila dito sa Samal is a diesel gensets. Modular gensets. Yan ang power namin sa Samal, diesel. Ngayon, ma'am, ang mahal-mahal na ng diesel, paano naman kami rito? I mean, Samal has long suffered because of their inefficiency and transparency. Hindi naman kami darating sa punto na kung asan tayo ngayon if kumaganda lang sana yung customer service nila. So that is why since way back, since I was a councilor way back 2007, I've been really fighting for this ever since. Kasi naaawa ho ako na ultimo yung mga ordinaryong Samalenyo, yun ho ang bumibili ng poste, bumibili ng transformer para lang magkakuryente ho yung ano nila. I mean, you can go to the ground, Madam Senator. I would be happy to invite you here in Samal and talk to the people so that and even the fellow senators nandiyan ho si ito po rin yung ni-raise.
Naputol na. But thank you for the invitation. Senator Jolon and I would probably, we're both not running this election, so maybe we have time to visit. Ang dinig ko maganda dyan sa Samal, di pa nga ako nakakapunta eh. Okay, pasensya na, Mayor Uy, we have to go to the next one. Sino pa ba? Mayors? Alan Relion of Tagum.
Senator Grace po.
Yes, please.
Yeah, this is Sunny Manigo po, City Planning Officer of Tagum City, and I'm the official representative of our mayor. Madam Chair, as we discussed thoroughly the issue yesterday with the mayor, the position of Tagum is to welcome all investors as going to our city. In fact, we are already a winner, national winner of a business-friendly LGU. So the way forward for Tagum is, of course, growth and development and progress, and we really need the appropriate power that will be given to us, and of course the services and the rates of the power. So our position, Madam Chair, is we are open to to our investors coming here to help us in our growth and development. Yun po, Madam Chair, the Honorable Grace po.
Thank you for your statement. That's very short but to the point. So now we know that you're for the affirmative. How about Maria Teresa Timbol of Kapalong? Mayor?
Good afternoon po sa lahat. Good afternoon po, Madam Chair.
Hello, ma'am.
Dito din po. Yes po. Thank you din po for giving me the chance to say something. Dito po sa Kapalong, same din po nung sinabi ni Mayor Aldavid, we have to allocate funds po for our electrification projects. In fact, by next week, we'll have another bidding worth 4 million para mag-energize po ako ng 2 sitio or 2 purok po dito sa Kapalong. Kaya ang local government din po ang nag-allocate ng funds for our electrification po. And for our sitio electrification, yes po.
No. That's crazy. Okay, that's exactly what Nordeco is supposed to be doing. Anyway, I'll let them respond
ever
later
since
on.
Naman po, kaya 100% po ang support ng taga-Kapalong na will be under Davao Light na po. Kasi sayang po budget ng local government. Instead, we could use it some other needs na mga tao. We have to allocate for the electrification project po ng Municipality of Kapalong.
Okay, thank you so much, Mayor, for your brief statement also. Now I would like to ask Mayor Arnel Sitoy of San Isidro. Maikli lang po para ma-cover natin mas marami. While we're waiting for Mayor Sitoy, maybe Mayor Georgian Federizo of New Corella.
Good afternoon po, Madam Chair, Senator Grace po. This is Royet Balig representing the Mayor Georgian Federizo. With regards to New Corella po, the people already have spoken through their barangay resolutions and Sangguniang Bayan resolutions to support this act.
Okay, what's your designation? Hindi kayo si Mayor, di ba?
Yes po, I am the Municipal Information Officer for New Corella.
Okay, all right, thank you. How about Mayor Joni Libayaw of Talaingod? Mayor.
Yes po, good morning.
Morning, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone. I am Ayan Popetines, the Municipal Environment and Natural Resources Officer and the concurrent Municipal Administrator for Administration, Honorable Grace Po, as I was tasked to inform everyone that as manifested by Resolution number 155, series of 2021, Talaingod is amenable to the changes in the subscription of electric power company in the municipality of Talaingod.
So, are you supportive of it? Sorry.
Yes po.
Okay.
In subscription also to the points presented by the Honorable Governor Edwin Hubahib and Honorable Pantaleon Alvarez. Totoo po lahat yun.
Okay, maraming salamat po. Now, maybe last, let's go to Tagum Chamber of Commerce, since I see you here. Before we go to more resource persons. Ano po yung position ng Chamber of Commerce? Kasi mahalaga rin po yan.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Madam Chair. The position of the Tagum Chamber of Commerce, the Board of Trustees and its member unanimously endorsed House Bill 10554.
Thank you very much, sir. That was short and to the point. Now, this is important. There's a question asked by Senator Drilon, and this is with regards to EPIRA. Is this allowed that you grant another franchise in the same area? Of course, Nordeco presented their view that unless, ito yung flash ninyo, the Public Service Commission, kami na rin yun, determines that the cooperative is unable within a reasonable time or is unwilling to supply service therein in accordance with the provisions of Section 37. Now, sir, based on the testimonies of our resource persons and local government, na sila ang nagbabayad para magpatayo ng mga poste and transformer, obviously, hindi kayong gumagawa nun. At sinabi rin ng Davao del Norte Governor Edwin na may mga lugar na hindi nga ninyo na nagagawa ng ano, kahit sa Samal Island. And you've held this franchise for, I mean, you were saying 50 years and for so long, hindi pa rin nakakaabot sa mga lugar na yan. So there's really reason to reconsider the exclusivity of your franchise. So now, Nordeco, tell me, bakit hindi nga kayo naggumagastos? Ba't kailangan local government ang mag-source ng funding? But before you answer that, I would like to acknowledge Senator Drilon.
Yes. Madam Chair, just in relation to your question, there are actually two issues here being presented. First is the legal issue. Under Section 27 of the EPIRA, this is being invoked by
Nordeco.
Nordeco.
Section 37.
37 or 27. It is being asserted that the franchise issued by the National Electrification Administration should be allowed to exist for its full term. And therefore, on that basis, it is asserted that we cannot grant the franchise in favor of Davao Light because there is an existing license issued by the NEA, and which allegedly under the EPIRA must be allowed to run its full term. So the second issue, of course, is whether or not the grant of the franchise to the Davao Light to cover these areas is for the common good. So these are, to my mind, the two issues that must be resolved. On the first issue, may I know if it is indeed the position of the National Electrification NEA administration and the PhilReca that the Congress cannot amend, alter, or terminate the franchise in these particular areas which are existing in favor of Nordeco? Is that the position?
Nea, first, please answer the question of Senator Drilon. And also, Nea, di ba binigyan ninyo yung ibang mga cooperatives ng rating like AAA, like Ileco, I think has AAA rating. And yet, we are considering the expansion of the more franchise in that area. So I would like to ask Nea, what is the rating of Nordeco? And what is your position on the expansion of the franchise of Davao Light Power Corp?
Yeah.
Nea.
Yes, good afternoon, Madam Chair. This is Attorney Gabat from the Legal Services Office of NEA. First and foremost, we would like to thank the Honorable Committee for giving us the chance or opportunity to submit our comment or say on this legislative measure. Regarding the first question by the good Senator, right now, Nordeco enjoys the category B. The EC posted an improvement in 5 operational parameters such as increase in working capital fund, reduced system loss that resulted to decrease in net losses as a result of its operation, increase in collection, current to current, and sustainable payment for power arrearages. Significant improvements in the operation of Nordeco from 2019, such as from category C to B, collection efficiency of 101.43%, current to current for 2021's third quarter. 2020 system loss went down to 11.71%, while 2021 system loss data is at the average of 13.34%. From 2011 to 2019, Nordeco did not pass the system laws under the NEA Key Performance Standard. Reliability indices for system average interruption frequency, or the SAIFE, are within the NEA KPS, or the Key Performance System. As of September 2021, no energy curtailment was reported. There is sufficient to support the demand in the franchise. Currently, Nordeco has 9 power suppliers with a maximum capacity of 91.368 megawatts. Nordeco has entered into restructuring agreement with all its power suppliers, and it's paying all its dues for the restructured accounts on top of its monthly current power bill. As of September 2021, Nordeco is 100.98% in its universal charges, remittance efficiency current to current. It is 160.51% in its NEA loan payment efficiency as of September 2021. And as to the electricity rate, Daneco has the second cheapest electricity rate at 9.59 pesos. Next to Doreco, and third is Dazoreco. As of September 2021, Nordeco has provided 236,367 consumer connections, an increase of 17,797 in consumer connections for the last 2 years. Now, we will be submitting this position paper to the Honorable Committee, Your Honors, with the reservation of submitting a supplemental position paper. With respect to the legal issue raised by the good Senator Franklin Drilon about the application of the exclusivity rule in terms of franchise, the NEA's stand on this matter is that unless these laws, such as the IPIRA laws, the PD 269 and other relevant laws sustaining the exclusivity rule for the franchise of Nordeco, unless these laws declared by the competent court, by any competent courts, unconstitutional, repealed or amended by the Honorable Congress, these laws are presumed valid and with force and effect.
Madam Chair.
That is the stand of NEA, Your Honors, because one of the characteristic of an enactment of a law, one of the good characteristics of a law is that the enactment of any law must not violate existing laws, Your Honors.
Well,
so
before you,
yes, Your Honor.
Attorney Gabat, let me now acknowledge Senator Drilon, after which Senator Revilla also asked to speak. Senator Drilon.
Yes. It is the position of NEA that, in effect, the provisions on IPIRA on this particular issue could not be touched by the present Congress. In other words, is it the position that the Section 27 of IPIRA is more superior than that of the Constitution, which authorizes Congress to amend, to repeal any franchise granted? Is that the position, Attorney Gaba?
Yes, please answer that.
What this representation would like to express, Your Honor, is that the Congress, of course, has all the prerogative has all the sole power to amend, revoke, or extend any franchise issued in favor of this public utility. But in this case, Your Honors, there is no revocation yet on the franchise of Nordeco. In other words, Your Honor, it is the stand of NEA that there should be no shortcut on this matter. We should be placing all things in the proper perspective, Your Honors.
What do you mean shortcut? We are exercising our legislative power. This is not, I cannot understand how the shortcut argument can be valid. I am just citing the Constitution under Article 12, Section 11. Congress is given the plenary power to amend, to alter, amend, and repeal any franchise granted. In this particular case, NEA is citing EPIRA, that the existing licenses should be given full term. Are we saying that this removes these franchises from the operation of the powers granted under the Constitution, under Article 12, Section 11, which grants Congress the plenary power to amend, to repeal, and alter any franchise granted?
No, Your Honor, that is not the stand of this representation. What I mean, Your Honor, is that there must be a law revoking first the franchise of
Yes.
Nordeco.
But isn't this, when we approve this franchise, isn't that a law?
Yes, Your Honor, that is a law, Your Honor.
If that is a law, then Congress, you should recognize, has the power to amend, repeal, or alter the existing license of Nordeco. I'm not saying that we should do it. I'm just providing a basis for the action of this committee, whatever it is, because apparently the debate right now is whether or not to grant the franchise to Nordeco is consistent with the standard of a common good for those in the areas covered.
Senator Drilon,
yes.
I have a question also, since you're in the topic. It's true that Congress can amend and cancel a franchise, and it's also in the Constitution that franchises are granted by Congress. So even if there's an EPIRA law that says certain that a particular cooperative will handle an area, what is higher than that is actually the law of the authority of Congress to grant a franchise. Am I correct?
Yes, that is obviously correct, Madam Chair, that the power of Congress is defined in the Constitution. The power to amend, to alter, or to repeal a franchise granted. And in this particular case, it is not even a franchise granted by Congress. It is a license issued by the National Electrification Administration. The EPIRA law is cited that the existing franchises shall be allowed to their full term. To be, Madam Chair, this cannot stand in the face of the express power of Congress to amend any franchise granted to any licensee of public services.
So just so I can be clarified also, Senator Drilon, based on your interpretation, even if we don't repeal, let's say, we don't repeal what Nordeco has, and they continue to operate, that doesn't exclude our authority to grant another franchise, right?
Yes, Madam Chair, that is within the prerogative of Congress. In fact, the Constitution provides that such franchises, certificate, or authorization cannot be exclusive in character. And therefore, we can grant another franchise, whether or not it is viable or economically advantageous is a policy decision. But we're just talking about the power of Congress. And that is why the matters of the efficiencies of the cooperative would come into the decision of Congress, whether it is for the common good. We're just, that is another issue. But on the issue of whether or not Congress can do it, it is my submission, Madam Chair, that Congress can do it as a matter of the Constitution, so that there is no basis for the argument of, National NEA and PhilReca that we cannot do anything about the license issued by the National Electrification Administration to Nordeco. That cannot stand any the constitutional. That cannot stand if examined against the constitutional provision of the powers of Congress.
In fact, to second the position of our minority leader, Congress granted solar para sa bayan, which is a national franchise. In fact, we didn't even categorize which areas. It's just national, meaning in the areas we are discussing now, solar para sa bayan can actually set up in those areas. So we have a precedent here. Maybe before I go again, I've been wanting to listen to the DOE, and the ERC, because this is also a very important position. I would like to ask Senator Revilla, are you ready? You have a question, sir? Go
Thank
ahead,
you,
please.
Chair. For NEA, pursuant to existing laws, rules and regulations, may I know what are the grounds for amending or even revoking an existing franchise of an electric cooperative? As per NEA's record, meron na bang prangkisa kayo na nabago o nakansela, na-revoke? NEA?
That's a good question. NEA, please respond.
So far po sa time po ng NEA na, wala pa po kung personal knowledge about the revocation. But doon po sa grounds for the revocation of the franchise, it is already on the hands of the Congress. The laws specifically says that the Congress may cancel or revoke the franchise for good cause or just cause po. So medyo vague po yung na yon. So depende po yun sa interpretation po ng Congress po. That is the only ground cited in the law. For example, approving a franchise for a certain electric cooperative for good cause po. Congress may revoke for good.
You know what? It seems to me that NEA is remiss with their duties. Kasi we've heard so many horror stories of poor services all over the country. And yet, as you mentioned, wala pang nakakansela. Manibali na. Okay. Senator Revilla, do you have a follow-up question?
Yeah. In your letter to the lower house, you mentioned that the grant of legislative franchise to private companies of areas covered by electric cooperatives must consider the government funds in the form of subsidies, grants, and other assistance extended to cooperatives for the implementation of various government projects. Pwede po ba naming malaman in the areas where DLPC is applying and covered by an electric cooperative, magkano na po ang pondong nagugol ng ating pamahalaan in terms of project implantation?
Your Honor, I do not have the exact figures at the moment, but we will endeavor to submit those figures to the Honorable Committee. You're referring to the SEPLEP funds, Your Honor?
That's right.
We will endeavor to submit it in due time, Your Honor.
Okay, to DLPC. You have heard the presentation of Nordeco, and I am sure you are fully aware of the oppositions on your franchise application. I'm very much concerned on the claims that this would constitute an unwarranted monopoly of distribution services in the Davao region, as well as diminish our electric cooperatives' efforts for electric consumers in the areas concerned. What can you say about these claims, as well as the other claims of Nordeco, specifically on the electricity rates? May I hear your position, comments on all this? Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor, Senator Bong. Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Velasco.
We are here to heed the call to provide affordable, reliable, power to the people of Davao del Norte, no, as mentioned by the mayors, the governor, and the congressman. We have been approached by several LGUs, again, no, businesses, the Tagum Chamber has mentioned that, businesses and residential customers all wanting the same thing. So reliable, affordable electricity. So we in Davao Light, we treat our business as if it's not a monopoly, as if we have a competition. That's why in my earlier statement, we always measure and strive to achieve world-class service. That's assuring the customer that we will not act as a monopolistic business. Number two, on terms of power cost, currently we are delivering our customers at an average of about 10 pesos, 10.10 or 10 pesos 10 centavos per kilowatt hour. That's the cost to deliver to our customers. According to our research, the NECO now, on the same period, the NECO will cost you, or Nordeco will cost the customer an average of 13 pesos and 30 centavos. That's a 3 pesos 10 centavos difference. So we're not talking about distribution rate here. We're talking about the bottom line. Because in the distribution utility business, we're not responsible only for the distribution. We're responsible for the value chain of supply, from distribution to transmission to generation, which is contracting of supply, and of course, the taxes that we pay. We are responsible, but we have to manage that so that the bottom line that we deliver to our customer is cheaper. So it's giving the customer the good service, reliable power, and all good customer service, Your Honor.
Okay, that's all, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Revilla. May we ask the Department of Energy present here today to please weigh in on our discussion?
Madam Chair, if I would be recognized, I am Director Mario Marasigan of the Electric Power Industry, a Management Bureau of the Department of Energy. Ma'am, brief lang yung aming comment dito sa deliberation, and we recognize po ang authority ng Congress, both houses, the House of Representatives and the Senate, on the granting of franchise. And insofar that all initiatives na ginagawa po ng ating Congress is for the betterment of the electricity services to our end users. So we recognize po yun. Ang amin lang po position is that we should take into consideration yung both sides po ng impact to all the electricity consumers that may be affected by the franchise, by the granting of the franchise, and it should be in within the legal tenets of the Republic Act 9136 and other applicable laws. So we support po and welcome this initiative to review at pag-aralan po kung ano yung nararapat na prangkisa sa mga areas na nangangailangan po ng serbisyo ng kuryente. Maraming salamat po, Madam Chair.
So just to clarify, ang position po ng Department of Energy is nasa prerogatiba ng Kongreso magbigay ng prangkisa. On the other hand, to consider both sides and what will be for the common good. Baka naman magbigay ng prangkisa sa isa, pero maaapektuhan ang isang banda ng populasyon. Ganun po ba?
Tama po, Madam Chair. Maraming salamat po.
Okay, so since that was very short, maybe you might as well ask, aside from the DOE, the Department of Energy, how about the ERC?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. If I may be allowed to continue. Yes. Good afternoon.
Yes, Attorney Blanco, go ahead, please.
Yes, Madam Chair. Thank you. We echo the position of the Department of Energy, Madam Chair. So the ERC believes that it is in the determination of the areas to be covered by a legislative franchise is within the sound discretion of the Congress. However, the position of the ERC is that we should all consider the impact of these possible changes in the the rates that will be borne by the consumers, so long as this exercise would result to a stable, secure, and a reliable supply of electricity for the consumers of both areas of DLPC and the Nordeco at least cost po. We would support the measure, Madam Chair. We will be submitting our formal position paper, Madam Chair, as we have noticed that for the transition of operations provision in the in-house bill 10554, it was actually copied from the more franchise law. So the context of that is regarding the issuance of a CPCN and the other provisions there with respect to the claims against Nordeco, which will be decided and executed by the ERC during the transition period. We will be proposing for appropriate language for the consideration of the committee, and that will be incorporated in our formal position paper, Your Honor.
This is yes. Thank you, Attorney Blanco. I heard the position of Governor Uy, and he was saying, Tyron Uy, sinasabi niya na ang problema kasi pag kunyari nabigyan ng serbisyo ng Davao Light and Power Corp ang ibang mga munisipyo, baka naman because of that, mag-suffer yung ibang munisipyo dahil mababawasan nga ng areas ang Nordeco. But my problem is for the common good, for example. We've heard from Congressman Alvarez and other governors that the service of Nordeco is really lacking. So ang ibig sabihin ba nito, in the interest of equality, wag na tayong mag-expand. So let's just all suffer together. Ganun ba yun? Diba? Kasi pag sinabi natin, kasi pagka binigyan natin ito, gagandang servisyo dito, bababa ang presyo ng kuryente, pero baka tumaas naman sa iba. So let's just accept the status quo that everybody should suffer. I don't think that's logical. I think that the role of Congress is to make sure that those that are granted a franchise is capable of providing the service that the subscribers and the clients deserve, which is uninterrupted power in this case, or if ever there's an interruption, quick and capable service to be able to restore that power. So, maybe, Governor Uy kasi is very familiar with me, and I know that he's been a respected governor in his area, and he's just articulating what might happen to his constituents. So, DLPC, kausapin na ninyo si Governor Uy. If you have to be able to assure him to provide better service in his area also, why not? Congress is always willing to listen for any possible solution or an expansion of a company that can provide better service. So, Governor, medyo outnumbered po sa ngayon, no? Yung opinion ng mga ibang governor doon sa area na gusto naman nila, tsaka yung mga ibang mayor, of course, that will weigh very heavily also in our decision that these people are clamoring for better service. So perhaps the LPC can reach out to you with regards to this. What can you say about our discussions thus far, Governor Uy?
Thank you, Madam Senator. I really understand also the sentiments of the mga silingan na mga officials, no? But of course, we are looking at the welfare of all the people that are part of the franchise, no, of the Nordeco and the present distributor. So yun lang sa amin. Ako lang din, pinoprotektahan ko lang yung tao namin. Ayaw ko na someday, if this House bill will be given a chance to pass into law, baka sabihin nila na hindi ako nag-raise ng mga facts and worries ko sa mga constituents ko. So I don't like to be blamed, no? Kung sakali totoo kaya na mag-increase yung power rates. So I guess it's just natural for me being the governor to protect the welfare also of our people. I hope na we can, weigh things out and come up with a more reasonable solution for this.
So DLPC, can you reach out to our governor, Uy, with regards to this? I think you really need to clarify and also maybe have a talk with Nordeco with regards to this. Maybe I don't know if you can sit at the same table, no? But the three of you should be able to figure out what the implications might be. In the interest of fairness, I would like to ask also some of the co-ops present here today because they're against the expansion of DLPC. So merong CAPEC, CAPEC. Do we have a representative from CAPEC? Or NCECCO? Mr. Abrea, go ahead po. Ano pong position nyo?
Ako po ang chairman sa INSECO po, ma'am, sa SC-wide, sa Davao del Oro and Davao del Norte. Allow me to read my manifestation opposing the House Bill 10554, ma'am. Your Honor.
Sige po, pero hindi po masyadong mahaba. Kasi medyo nagugutom na rin yung mga ibang resource at pati na rin yung mga mga kasama natin. Go ahead, please.
Yes, ma'am. 50 years ago, only the Davao del Norte Electric Cooperative, Nordeco, incorporated, now named Northern Davao Electric Cooperative, Nordeco, took risks and accepted the challenge of bringing light the province of Davao del Norte, which is now divided into two provinces, Davao de Oro and Davao del Norte. It was that time that franchise coverage area was unbearable, and electrifying the countryside was an impossible dream. We are reaping the fruits for the labor started by our electric cooperative incorporators, pioneering board of directors and employees, and political leaders who stood and braved their ways for Nordeco. It was survived the test of times not only from conflict, the CD and NIA group, but from the threats of takeover even in the 1990s. This goes to show that Nordeco remains steadfast amidst any challenges as it may be caused by factors awaiting for the electric cooperative's downfall and be declared an ailing electric cooperative, Nordeco. Nordeco is not an ailing electric cooperative. Its operation improved in the past 2 years from the almost 8 years of conflict which ended on November 14, 2019. And now that the electric cooperative is stable, it is again troubled with his Bill 10554. In behalf of the National Center of Electric Cooperative Consumers in the franchise coverage area of Nordeco, I strongly oppose to the passage House Bill 10554 bis. There was no consultation made with the respect the stand of or the proponent in favor of this bill. Is not reflected of the member consumer owners sentiment because we are not given a chance to be heard. In fact, during the Legislative Franchise Committee hearing the 18th Congress of the House Representative on November 29, 2021, I was accepted to witness the hearing on Zoom platform, but suddenly I was kicked out. The 100,005 signatures secured by INSECO in favor of Nordeco and the opposition of the bill were the given consideration compared to that the signature secured by proponent of the bill. The signature campaign opposing said bill is still ongoing. We know for a fact that its House bill would be approved. The remaining member consumer owners would be greatly affected as they would suffer an increased rate of approximately 20 pesos per kilowatt per hour. Too much burden to us. So napakataas po, Madam Chair, ng presyo ng kuryente kung ma-approve itong House Bill na 10554. The member consumer owners and the future generation of the municipalities of Talaingod, Asuncion, Laa, Kapalong, San Isidro, New Corella, Tagum City, and Island Garden City of Samal. In Davao del Norte, the municipality of Maco of Davao de Oro would be robbed of the rights of ownership to our electric cooperative, where sweet, blood, and even lives of our fellow member consumer owners were offered just to preserve, protect, and beloved electric cooperative.
Okay, Mr. Abrea, I think I get your point, no? But you don't, you know, in your position, ang daming hindi nasasagot. For example, bakit local government na nagbabayad ng electrification? Bakit ang service niyo ang daming interruption? So anyway, I've already given you your time. Very briefly, I think Governor Jubahib would like to give a short reaction.
Ma'am, hindi totoo po yan, ma'am. Kasi
kakasabi lang nung isang mayor kailangan nga nila magpa-bid para nga yung 4 million lang na mga poste o transformer ibigay sa kanila. Paano hindi totoo yon? Anyway, yes.
Tanungin po natin yung management natin dito, ma'am, sa Nordeco, sa si Attorney Campo.
Siyempre, sasabihin ng Nordeco, hindi totoo yan. Pero mamaya, I'll give them time. Dito muna tayo kay Governor Jubahib po.
Ma'am, hindi po maging first class po ang Tagum City pag hindi po sinusuportahan ng Nordeco po, ma'am.
Sige. Thank you po. Hindi bale, based on your recommendation, Mr. Abrea, I will also ask Nordeco to react. Thank you po, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you po.
Okay. Sige naman. Kanina pa kasi si Gove. Jubahib, sige na, go.
Thank you po, Madam Chair, Senator Grace po. Ma'am, ito po wala ng mga flowering words. Ito po talaga actual na nangyayari po dito sa Davao del Norte. Kaya po kami nag-react. Mayroon po kami mga series of meeting with Danico Nordeco. Paano namin i-resolve itong sobrang mahal na charges per kilowatt and always brown out. Ito yung problema namin. At lalo na ngayon na nagmahal na ang diesel, paano na ang Island Garden City of Samal? Ito yung services talaga nila na hindi nila masagot-sagot sa amin na talagang para binubula lang ang taong bayan. Kaya ang hamon namin is ang good service para sa Davao del Norte. So kung si Gov. Tyrone Oy gusto rin niya ang magandang serbisyo ng kuryente sa Davao de Oro, so sasama na siya sa petition namin against Danico Nordeco. Dahil dalawang province lang ang involved sa services ng Danico Nordeco na sobrang pangit talaga na serbisyo. Davao del Norte and Davao de Oro. So, pwede na rin sumabay si Gov. Tyrone Oy for the betterment of Davao de Oro. So, ito po yung bill, Madam Chair. Gusto ko po ipakita sa inyo. Kita ba? Ito po yung
medyo hindi malabo pero pakisubmit na lang po sa amin. Opo, ano po yan?
Ito po ito lahat sa inyo. Ito po yung totoong nangyayari dito sa Davao del Norte and Davao de Oro na 13 pesos kasama na yung system loss, CAPEX refund, meter fixed charge, meter system charge, supply system charge, etc. Ito po yung totoong nangyayari kaya po sinusuportahan ng lahat ng LGUs sa Davao del Norte na affected at sa mga constituents po namin. Wala po itong bias, Madam Chair. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat po, Governor. Mayor Uy, kayo po. Short. Wala po akong kinakampihan dito ha. Ang gusto ko lang talaga malaman yung better service, di ba? Kasi syempre alam ko din naman na yung co-op marami rin silang na-invest pero di ba, you have to be able to cope with the changing times and provide better capital. Okay. Mayor Uy.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you po. Naputol po ako kanina. Parang nag-brown out sandali dito sa amin. Yun nga, ang hindi ko lang talaga, ma'am, yung ultimo yung the normal citizens po, yung normal na mga citizen dito sa Samal, they are the one paying for their electric poles, transformer, and for the sake of transparency, ma'am, nandyan pa ba ho, if with your permission, I would like to ask kung nandyan pa ho si Attorney Blanco of ERC. Kasi I would like to ask her po, ma'am, with your permission. Kasi during the congressional hearings, na-mention ni Attorney Blanco of ERC na kasi kami rin ho sa Samal, we've been petitioning NEA and ERC na ma-audit yung Daneco. In fact, I don't know what happened with NEA. And as to ERC, kasi mismo ho yung ERC na na-mention ni Attorney Blanco during the congressional hearing, ang dami nilang show cause order sa Nordeco. And yet, hindi sinasagot ng Nordeco yung mga show cause orders and petitions. Siguro, kasi medyo yung during the last meeting with Congress, hopefully nasagot na yun ng Nordeco yung mga show cause orders na pinadala ng ERC sa kanila dahil na ho sa mga andaming reklamo.
No, that's a good point, Mayor. That's a good point. Meron pala mga show cause orders. Before I listen to ERC, Gov, were you raising your hand? Hindi. Okay. ERC. Attorney Blanco, I can see you're still present. Yes, go ahead, ma'am. Did you respond to that show cause, or did they respond to the show cause orders, etc.?
There was a response po, but the compliance, kasi po yung show cause orders natin, most of them were due to non-submission of mga reportorial requirements natin. So for us to be able to evaluate their performance, like performance assessments po, may mga kulang silang reports na hindi na-submit. So far, per checking po sa aming records, may mga reports pa rin pong hindi nasasubmit. At for resolution na po ng commission yung kung paano po yung resolution na po yung show cause orders na yun, Madam Chair.
Okay, when was the show cause order submitted to Nordeco? When was it given to Nordeco?
There were several show cause orders po issued in 2018, 2019 po, Your Honors.
You mean in those ano na ba tayo ngayon, 2022, hindi pa sila nakaka-submit sa lahat?
Yung isa po natin, yes, apologies. Go ahead po.
Yeah, with your permission, Madam Chair, kasi I do believe yung ibang show cause orders ang tagal na eh. Like in our case in Samal, we've been submitting to NEA, to ERC way back. Lalo na yung nagkagulo ang yung Daneco, nagkaroon ng Daneco NEA and Daneco CDA. So we've been actually asking, petitioning for audit, and yet hanggang ngayon walang nangyayari.
Ay kaya nga So, 'di ba dapat kung ganun katagal, ERC has the power to actually cancel their permit, 'di ba? ERC. Let's say in the resolution you found that Daneco is liable for certain or violations of their permit, substandard service, ganyan. Do you have the power to cancel their authority to operate?
I'm sure we can recommend to the Congress for the revocation of their franchise, and it could also be the basis for the revocation of their CPCN. Kung makikita naman pong hindi sila nagko-comply. But sa mga standards po. But non-submissions of reports are administrative po in nature. So yung penalties as to those non-submissions, hindi naman po siya posible pang maging ground for...
No, yeah. Attorney Blanco, I understand. But depending on the gravity of the issues, no? I know that the submission alone is not really grounds for revocation. But remember, for example, Congress grants a media company a franchise to operate, a franchise, but they still have to get the permit from the NTC. And if they're not able to get that, even with a franchise, they cannot operate. Of course, they can always challenge this in court, no? The same way with you. Kung wala silang CPCN at sila ay nasuspend, hindi din sila pwede mag-operate, di ba?
That's correct, Your
Honor. Okay. Anyway, moving forward, kasi I want to ask the reaction naman of Nordeco. Nordeco, Ano na ba yung position ninyo? Bakit ang nagbabayad, local government, Congress, dun sa mga expansion? And what can you say about the poor service that you are apparently being called upon to address?
Madam Chair, in answer to the statement of the public officials relative to the infusion of money for the construction of line, it is mandated under Presidential Decree 269 that a cooperative, being a non-profit institution, is entitled to every tenable support that the agencies of government can spend for the rural electrification within the franchise area. In second issue, Madam Chair, as to rate, I would like to point out that the generation mix of the Nordeco as against the DLPC is totally different. In our generation mix, 77% came from coal and diesel, and our PISAM is only 16%. The power generated from contracted from the PISAM is only 16%. Had the NECO were given the supply from PISAM equivalent to that of DLPC, amounting to 44% of its generation, Nordeco could have had a lower rate similar to that of Davao Light. Unfortunately, it's not available in the case of Nordeco. That's why we have a totally different rate. Contrary to the statement of Governor Hubahib, there is no such thing as different rates every sitio, and it did not reach to about 19%. As to the issue of whether or not Congress can amend, repeal, or revoke the franchise of the NECO, with all due respect, it is the submission of Nordeco that Article 12, Section 11 of the 1987 Constitution is not a self-executing provision of the law. It is limited by the enactment of Republic Act number 9136, the Energy Power Industry Reform Act, which was enacted in 2001, which provides and limits, with all due respect, the authority of Congress for the certificates or franchises issued to electric cooperative to operate in its full term, because this electric cooperative were given funds by the Marcosian Decree, Presidential Decree 269, to be able to energize the rural areas in our country. And it
Attorney, let me stop you.
Yes.
Yes.
I apologize, Madam Chair.
No. Go ahead. Thank you for trying to enlighten us. The permit that you have is not necessarily being canceled now. What we're saying is you can coexist with another provider. So as to what you're saying, this Republic Act that cooperatives should be allowed to finish their franchise at the duration of their permit and franchise. So far now, you still can do that even if we grant a franchise to DLPC. So what can you say about that?
Madam Chair, Republic Act 9136 is consistent to the fact that the exclusivity of franchises given to electric cooperative. The economics of scale will dictate us that if a franchise is given to the sole power distributor, efficiency will be a byproduct. In the case of Nordeco, taking out 52% of its franchise area and lower it over to Davao Light and Power Company, the operations of Nordeco will be definitely weakened, considering that the remaining 48% will be left to Nordeco. The franchise area of Nordeco is essentially a residential. Say, pursuant to the mandate of government, in one barangay, in 2006, there was a barangay that was energized pursuant to the mandate of government. The cost of energization was 3 million. the consumer immediately after the connection was only the barangay captain and the barangay hall. So Nordeco now is subsidizing the maintenance cost of that particular line at the expense of Nordeco. And that is just to comply with the government's mandate as the government's arm in the rural electrification program.
Okay. Obviously, there are areas that are unserved that you were able to electrify. But there are also other areas that, as we've heard in the testimonies, you weren't able to provide service for. So that's now where the issue is. Yung mga sinasabi ninyo, kasi you're given funding by Congress, you're given fund. Yun nga yung problema eh. Parang we're continuously raising a child from the time the child was born 40, 50 years ago until now, subsidized pa rin ng gobyerno somehow. That even the local government has to shell out its own money to be able to support. So we have here an opportunity where the private sector will be the ones that will bring out the capital, especially now na kulang na talaga ang pera ng gobyerno after this pandemic, after all the other things that we have to spend for. So that's our point. Now, what I'd like to manifest also, no, before I adjourn this hearing, one more, I guess, that I haven't asked is Philreca. Philreca, what is your position?
Yes, Madam Chair, good afternoon to the members of this honorable committee, the resource persons, the guests, and the electric cooperatives and member consumer owners joining this hearing. We have sent, Madam Chair, our position paper on this measure as early as February 17. Nonetheless, we have submitted supplemental position paper dated March 5 upon receipt of the notice that the same is scheduled for today's hearing. Relative to the position paper we sent to this committee opposing the House Bill number 10554, we would like to provide the following observations to supplement our position paper. First and foremost, Madam Chair, please note that during the committee's first and only deliberation in the House of Representatives, the DOE, the NEA, and the ERC were not able to provide or submit their official position papers. And yet the measure was approved together with the committee report and has not even prepared in the first place and it was voted in the plenary. So we are asking here the due process. And second, Madam Chair, a comparison of House Bill 9976, the original bill that was supposedly discussed in the committee, and the substitute bill, which is House Bill 10554, would reveal significant difference in the content. The original bill is a 6-page application for franchise, while the substitute bill is only a 3-page amendment of Davao Light and Power, 1-year franchise, 1-year-old franchise. Third, Madam Chair, is we appeal that this measure will be looked into further. The affected electric cooperative was not even given due process. The House Bill 10554 aims to carve out areas in the franchise of the electric cooperative, and yet no deliberation nor investigation of EC's performance was done. This is unusual, and more importantly, this is against the interest of the member consumer owners. We hope that we can also hear the position paper of the CAPEX, the Association of Consumers, who are the real and legitimate owners of the cooperative. Madam Chair and Your Honors, we would not expound on the arguments which has been tackled already in this, but we would like to ask and appeal that as partners of the government, the electric cooperatives are one of those who have the noble mandate to total electrification, and hence the government's staunch partner in the mission of energizing the nation. We have been asking why the government have to subsidize the electric cooperatives operation. It is because we are non-stock, non-profit. Should the government allow us, or the ERC allow us, a margin of profit, then maybe the electric cooperatives needs not to be subsidized by the government. For 5 decades, Madam Chair, we relied on electric cooperatives as they risk their lives to energize the countryside, especially the far-flung areas, which big and for-profit corporations neglected because there is no potential profit that time. The electric cooperatives do not intend to profit or to be rewarded in their sacrifices, but allowing them to continue being government partner for electrification is only going to be beneficial to member consumer owners. But more importantly, this is the right thing to do. Nordeco should be owned by the people, not by the oligarchs, and not by the few elites. We say no to corporate takeover of Nordeco by private for-profit Davao Light and Power Company. That would be all, Madam Chair, and thank you so much for providing us the opportunity. We really hope and appeal that the position paper of the member consumer owners will also be given due course, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Attorney Colingan. Ganyan sa ating mga resource person, ganyan dapat ang presentation. Naka-enumerate. Ito, 1, 2, 3, 4, and mabilis lang. Thank you, Attorney. That was quite good. Now, alam ko not for profit. Pero obviously may board, may sweldo, may mga benefits kaya na napupunta sa mga co-op members. Okay? Hindi naman pure altruism yan. But that's another point later on. About the, I'll ask, hindi ko pa natatawag si Capec Reverend Cofreros, di ba? Hindi pa. Pero, Reverend, sadali lang I would like to ask PCC after you what you feel about these two providers in those areas. But Reverend, please keep it short kasi I'm going to adjourn soon. Go ahead, please.
Magandang araw po sa ating lahat. A blessed day. Thank you so much for time ibinigay niyo sa akin. Brought by the call to defend the electric cooperative, the Coalition Against Privatization of Electric Cooperatives or CAPEX was created on December 21, 2021. The coalition serves as a venue that consolidates people's support from different walks of life, sector, individuals, and the religious groups, academic, civic organizations, basic sectors, business sectors. For the long time, in inexperienced circumstances, this electric cooperative has not abandoned its social obligations, responsibilities, and duties, and generally cater fair, honest services that brings light to every home of the people in the provinces of Davao del Norte and Davao de Oro. On January 14, 2022, the CAPEX has launched its Peace Rally Caravan in the main streets of Tagum City. Davao del Norte with approved permit from the local chief executive of the LGU of Tagum City. A number of 2,636 member consumer owners of Nordeco have gathered in unity and manifested their support to protest against the greedy and profit-oriented actions of Davao Light and Power Company by trying to circumvent the existing and binding laws that protect the operation of Nordeco as electric cooperative in the said provinces. Hence, we firmly uphold and protect the spirit of cooperativism, which is the guiding principle of Nordeco and other cooperatives in the country in its kanyang vision mission. So in addition, the history of the development of the electricity of the two provinces of Davao de Oro and Davao del Norte, including the island garden city of Samal, is a narration and witness of the efforts, sacrifices, and relentless social services of Nordeco as electric cooperative. In injunction of our union with Nordeco, one is respect the legal franchise of Nordeco and its affiliates. So thank you very much, Madam Chair, Honorable, for the time. God bless us all.
Thank you, sir. About the Philippine Competition Commission, how do you see this issue now with regards to having two providers of power in a certain locality?
Thank you, Madam Chair, for this opportunity to share our perspective on the main with regard to the primary issue of whether to allow the expansion of the franchise area of Davao Light. We would defer to the wisdom of the Senate on this. However, from a competition perspective, we wish to emphasize the critical importance of respecting the existing power purchase or power supply agreements between distribution utilities and power generation companies. This position applies not only to the existing bill seeking to expand the franchise area of Davao Light and Power, but also to similar bills pending before the legislature, for instance, the one pertaining to more electric power. Our advocacy is premised on the following considerations, Madam Chair. First is the provision on the inviolability of contracts under the Constitution. We recognize that this constitutional provision is not without exceptions and will yield to the police power of the state to promote public welfare. Our sense, however, in this particular case is that this is not one of those situations where police power on the basis of public welfare should be exercised to derogate against pre-existing contracts. Broader public considerations have to come in. These considerations require that the government ensure a legally predictable and legally stable investment and business environment, particularly during these times when the power sector suffers from uncertainties brought about by geopolitical issues beyond our control. If we are going to add to the uncertainty of sourcing power and the operations of these power generation companies, then the entire value chain, particularly at the front end of the pipeline, will be destabilized severely. If the pre-existing power purchase agreements are not respected, this will, as I said, destabilize the operations and even the financial viability of some of the generation companies supplying power to the DUs. This is particularly true for the smaller GenCos, which contracted financing for the construction of their facilities on the basis of supply agreements which they secured with the DUs. Larger GenCos, which have diverse portfolios of generating facilities, may not be affected as much by this issue. But for the smaller GenCos, certainly this is the case. And this will act as a disincentive on the entry into the market of smaller GenCos if they see that their power supply agreements can be conveniently set aside. Such disincentive is contrary to the state policy of promoting competition, which the PCC is mandated to implement. So this is where we come in with this perspective, Madam Chair, that this kind of derogation against pre-existing contracts in the power supply agreements between GenCos and distribution utilities might act as a disincentive, as a deterrent to entry into the market by GenCos, particularly the smaller ones. And this will impact competition negatively. So for these considerations, Madam Chair, we reiterate our position that existing power purchase or power supply agreements between distribution utilities and power generation companies be respected and their continuity ensured in any legislative action that will be taken by the Senate on this, as well as in similar franchise bills. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. What you're basically the gist of your position is the sanctity of contracts, which, if we don't consistently honor, might discourage potential investors to take a risk entering into an agreement with the Philippine government, etc. But remember, there's also a provision that says that the franchisee or the franchise holder should be able to provide the service that is what the consumers deserve. So what we're looking at now is obviously there's a supposed deficiency in the service that they provide. As you know, even the president, I initially was initially of the position of the sanctity of contracts, but we had to review the agreements of MWSS and Manila Water to be reflective of a fair agreement. And it had to go through also Congress. So please submit what you just read, your position paper, so that we can reconcile this also with the other positions as we deliberate on this franchise application. So thank you, Mr. Bernabe.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just a question.
Yes, Senator Drilon is recognized.
Madam Chair, I do not know who can answer this question. And I haven't read the franchise application, but is there a power to expropriate granted to the license, to the franchise applicant?
Senator Drilon, can you repeat the question? Is there a
Is there
power
a
to...
power to expropriate, a power of eminent domain granted to the applicant? Meaning, can they expropriate upon payment of compensation, real property which is needed to operate the business? In other words, used for public purposes. Because in more franchise, there was that grant of power to expropriate. So what the situation now is that since PECO's franchise expired, the assets were expropriated by more. And I think this was sustained by the Supreme Court. The dispute now is on the valuation of these assets expropriated, which is now in court. Now, the question that I raise here is a similar grant of eminent domain or expropriation of public property, of private property upon payment of just compensation among the powers granted under the franchise, under the proposed franchise, ma'am?
Madam Chair, if I may be allowed to answer.
Yes, go ahead.
In answer to the question of Senator Drilon, it is stated in Section 9 of the proposed measure. But our comment to that is that under Republic Act 9136, in case the cooperative will be converted into a stock corporation, the assets of the cooperative shall be instituted in favor of the government and it will be valued. So in the event that the measure will be approved, a situation is like this. The private entity will be expropriating the government because substantial assets in the form of donated capital has been infused to electric cooperatives, just like Nordeco.
Now, will that legal situation be present where the franchise of Nordeco continues to exist, and another franchise is granted to Davao Light? I'm not saying it should be done. I'm just asking a theoretical question. Would there be a problem if there's another franchise holder in the same area?
If I may be allowed to answer, Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
There is a problem to us because there will be two distribution lines that will be constructed in public roads, and there will be two entities operating. Number two, the capital expenditures of the new franchise that will operate within the franchise of the NECO, it will be charged to the member consumers because these are pass-on rates. And it will result possibly in the increase of the power rate.
Yeah, I'm suggesting to our honorable chairman that maybe this issue should be carefully reviewed and how it is to be addressed. In the case of PECO's franchise expired, and therefore it was a private property that, I mean, the distribution assets were of a private entity, PECO, were used for public purposes in pursuit of the franchise granted to more. This was sustained by the Supreme Court. Whether or not that same rule applies here, I am not prepared to venture an opinion, but I am suggesting to the committee that this should be studied, because in effect, what is being done here is that the franchise of Nordeco will be terminated. Is that a correct assumption, ma'am?
What in the original franchise, I remember there was an original franchise for the DLPC, and then there was a section on the right of eminent domain. But in the second, shorter version franchise, which was mentioned by Nordeco, Section 9 of the eminent domain was removed. Maybe it's the same thing, that since there are already certain lines present, I guess this is something that we need to study, because if, let's say, DLPC will actually expand in some areas that were not electrified by Nordeco, they will also need the eminent domain to be able to lay the connection. So I don't know, but I think that we have to reconsider Section 9, if ever, and what the implications will be. Will Nordeco now be forced to share their lines of transmission with DLPC?
Yes, Madam Chair, I would suggest that we study this carefully. Obviously, we have no answers to these questions that we raised, but the Secretariat, the technical staff should research on this and see what is the most equitable provision, assuming that we grant the franchise. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. I will now, before I adjourn this hearing, this will be an ongoing discussion between the technical working group and all the other resource persons that might be called to participate, because we have, as also mentioned by Senator Drilon, some concerns that we need to address, and also the one that was raised by the Philippine Competition Commission. Now, I would also like to manifest that Senator Gatchalian, the chairperson of the Committee on Energy, sent several questions and requests for submissions for Davao Light. The committee will furnish a copy to the applicants so that they can submit to both the committees on public services and energy. Because even if I adjourn this, I will still rely on the technical working group for the recommendation before I can submit a committee report for the consideration of the members of the body. Because after that committee report is submitted, if we get the majority of the signatures, that's the only time I can present that on the floor, and all the questions that were brought forth will now be open for interpellation, and I'll have to be able to defend this. So if you don't send your answers, I won't be able to defend this. Okay? So that's it.
Madam
This
Chair,
hearing,
may be acknowledged.
yes.
May we be given
A very short time, 3 minutes.
Yes. May we be given also the opportunity to be furnished with the copies of those documents you earlier mentioned, and may we be allowed to submit our supplemental position paper?
In a timely manner, not the way you're responding to the show cause orders of the ERC. So we will give you a time frame to submit so that we can include it in the deliberation.
We will do that, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you so much to our resource persons for your positions, for articulating the reasons pro or against this franchise. I would also like to thank our local government who are present here today, representatives, and of course, our esteemed and brilliant, always the brilliant Minority Leader, Senator Franklin Drilon. So with that, this hearing is finally adjourned. Oh, Senator Drilon is recognized.
Ma'am, just in case you will call another thing, I noticed that you have adjourned. But in the other committee hearings, maybe we should request, if we are inviting the LGUs, that it is the elected mayor or governor who should appear, not send representatives to speak for the LGU. We are looking for opinions of the duly elected representatives, not the representatives of these LGUs. Thank you, ma'am. Just a suggestion.
That's a good point. At least we have the majority of the elected officials. We have the Governor Juhay. We also have Congressman Alvarez, Mayor Uy, Governor Tyron Uy. So meron naman. But for the others, let me instruct the Secretariat to please get in touch with those who just sent representatives and to ask their local government to submit in writing their position paper.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you very much. This hearing is now adjourned.